Welcome to the Pastured Pig Podcast,
where we share the successes and challenges of raising pigs on pasture.
We talk to producers all over the country,
From small homesteads to large commercial pasture operations.
Whether you're new to pastured pigs or have been raising hogs for decades,
We hope you hear new ideas and new perspectives on pasturing hogs.
here's your host, Troy McClung.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 3 of the Pastured Pig Podcast. So glad you all decided to join us today, wherever you may be listening. I hope you're having a good day. We're going to quickly jump into our interview, but just wanted to give a brief update. It's one of these days, beautiful evening here in southern West Virginia. Actually, I don't know if you can hear the birds in the background, but sitting out on the back porch, enjoying a cool evening. We've had a lot of rain lately, so it's nice to be able to sit out here on the porch and just enjoy the cool evening without the rain. The rain has caused issues in the pig area and in the woodlot and in the pasture. Of course, in West Virginia, when you get rain, you get a lot of red clay mud. So we've had a lot of mud. The pigs have enjoyed it. They making wallows everywhere. And it's funny, I was going to start this episode off with saying, pigs are jerks, and explain that, but I thought better of it. But it was funny, one morning I went down and checked on the sows, and because I had, we had gone over Memorial Day weekend on vacation, I had filled up the large 2-ton feeder. I didn't put 2 tons in it, of course, but put enough feed in the 2-ton feeder so my sows could self-feed. Normally with them, since they're my breeders, I don't, of course, give them unlimited feed source. I usually give them a ration each day, so that requires a daily contact point with them. But this time, since we're going to be gone for a couple days, I thought, well, I'll fill up enough feed in the 2-ton that they can access it, and they do a pretty good job. They don't get too crazy and gorge themselves. Even had some feed left when I got back, I realized. But what had happened as the feeder got empty, the next day I was going to go in and take the feeder out and get it back out of the pasture and put it in storage until I needed it again. I go down to the pasture in the morning before going into the office and taking my ration down for them, and look, and my feeder has been knocked over into the creek that we have. I have a decent-sized stream in the middle of our valley, and the pigs, I guess, they got it completely empty and thought, well, there's got to be a little bit more underneath it. So, as pigs do around here, they flip everything over. So they flipped that feeder over into the creek. Well, I was ready to go into the office. I had a meeting, so I had to get going. I didn't have a chance to get the tractor to pull it out of there. Well, of course, that night we had an absolute torrential downpour. So washed the lid off the feeder. The lid I found about 200 yards further downstream and wedged up against a tree. So I had to dig that out, and so I have to get the tractor and pull all that out of the creek. So pigs are jerks. Well, in this episode, we were able to interview David Crafton of Six Oaks Farms, plural. He is in South Carolina, and David's one of those guys. He's one of my first interviews, and realized I didn't really realize who I was talking to till after I talked to him, and then started doing more research on him. And this guy is extremely knowledgeable. I really appreciate him taking the time to talk to us. I think we're actually going to have him on again, be later on in this summer as we figure out the episode order and how we're releasing these. But David is just a wealth of information. He's on 40 acres in South Carolina, and it's interesting. He actually had a pretty decent operation in Maryland for 20 years, a beef operation, and moved to South Carolina and started his hog operation. I'll obviously let him tell more of the backstory there. But I think the neatest thing about it is his breeding line. He's actually working on his own genetic line, his own breed of pastured pork there. And he goes into some detail on that in our interview, and that's really exciting. I'm anxious to come back and interview him multiple times to see how that's going. So we really appreciate David taking the time to speak with us. And we're going to jump right now into that interview. All right, everybody, I'm really excited to have David Crafton on the podcast this evening. David's in South Carolina, Six Oaks Farms, and he's got a really big operation going on down there. Really anxious to talk to him. So without any further ado, David, welcome.
Thank you. How are you tonight?
I'm doing great. Okay, so tell me, in some of the information we talked about before this interview started, you state that you have one of the biggest pastured pig operations in South Carolina.
Yeah, I believe so. I've, of course, I started small like everybody else. I guess I started out with about 3 or 4 sows. But yeah, I'm breeding. I've got 25 sows, what I like to say online, and breeding now. But I've got a bunch more coming up that I've been holding back because, well, we're just that busy. I'm trying to keep up with orders, for piglets and pigs and pork.
Wow, that's a great thing. That's a great problem to have, isn't it?
I'm not complaining.
Okay, well, let's start with talking about your operation, if you don't mind. Just give us a kind of the 40,000-foot elevation details of your setup, how many acres, just kind of your overall setup.
Okay, I am on 40 acres in the upstate of South Carolina. I'm trying to think. I've probably got about maybe 18 or so acres fenced in specifically for the pigs, although I also have cows and some sheep and, of course, chickens and that sort of thing. I've I've been at this location for a couple years now. I started out in the southern part of South Carolina back in 2011. I had moved here from Maryland. I was actually an electrician for over 20 years. I was a project manager in the end there, and I farmed part-time. I mostly raised Black Angus feeder steers up there, and I moved down here with the intention of doing the same thing. But like I said, I had gotten a few pigs, and things just kind of took off from there. I've enjoyed the grass-fed, natural, antibiotic-free sort of thing, and once I started advertising that I had that available, phone calls came in slowly at first, but I've ramped up since then.
Yeah, that's interesting. So from Maryland, I was gonna say you don't sound like a native South Carolinian there. You don't have that Southern accent.
Right.
So you started in Maryland as a cattle farmer. So was that in the family? Did you just kind of come out of school wanting to do that, or do you have a history with your family of doing that?
No, not at all. In fact, I was born and raised in Baltimore. We moved out of Baltimore when I was 18 to rural Maryland. We were about 45 minutes northwest of Baltimore, and I was country boy, man. I kind of disconnected from all my city friends and made country friends. And, I had always enjoyed hunting and fishing and that sort of thing all along anyhow. My aunt had a farm up near where we had moved to, and she had pigs and a couple horses and that sort of thing. But I had pretty much zero background. But I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the rural life. And like I said, I was, in the electrical trade, commercial electrical trade for all that time. And once they moved me into the office, that was my sign. I was used to being out on a job all those years in different places and outdoors and that sort of thing. And they moved me into the office. It was a good gig, great money and, benefits. They paid, for everything, vehicle gas, insurance, that sort of thing. But I just like being outside more than I liked it, more than I liked the benefits of it. So of, being in an office. So I made the jump, and we bought 12 acres up there and roped it in. And, I raised a few feeder steers, and I grew a market garden, which I had gardened, for a long time prior to that. My dad was always had some kind of garden going on, so I learned a lot from him. But, over time, I just kind of had a strong desire to, to at least try it out full time. So I saved up and moved to South Carolina.
So was the move to South Carolina to acquire more property, or just be in a better temperate, more climate area? What was the motivation to go south?
The honest answer is that Maryland politics and taxes are the two main reasons that I moved down here. I couldn't have bought, I couldn't have gotten land like I got down here in Maryland. Not at at even close to the same price.
Absolutely, so, yeah. Those are two good motivators.
Yeah, it was a financial. It was more geared towards a financial thing because that's what I had wanted to do. And like I said, I couldn't get 40 acres up in Maryland for what I got it down here.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving to South Carolina with the intent of working cattle, and you said you got a couple pigs. What about the pigs won you over?
Oh gosh, I like bacon, and I guess I don't know. It was something about them. Starting out the way that I did, I wasn't, I wanted them on pasture and that sort of thing, but I made the same, little mistakes and learning curve that everyone else does. I bought pigs from, a couple different places at the beginning, and some did well on pasture, some didn't. I learned early on to, breed the better pigs, the ones that perform better on pasture, the ones that were, seemed to be a little bit more feed efficient, the ones that were better mothers, that sort of thing. And having done that early on, that was part of, I think, what, endeared me to pigs was, they're very productive. I get 2 litters a year out of each sow. Big litters, typically big litters. And, and of course the personalities, they're, that's the other thing, and I tell people this all the time. I breed for temperament, because that is something that certainly is genetic and can carry, so I don't breed mean pigs. I eat them.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, definitely, I agree. That's temperament goes a long way, especially an animal you're going to work on a regular basis. If you always have a hateful animal, you got to be looking over your shoulder. That makes for a long day.
Absolutely.
Well, let's talk about your genetic program. I know we had talked offline first about some of the successes you've had with your genetic breeding and how that's gained some popularity in your area.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said, I learned early on, to breed, which ones I wanted to keep the breed. And of course I, am a consummate researcher, so I'm always looking online, about that sort of thing and what about pigs carries, genetically, what the male contributes, what the sows contribute, that sort of thing. So I think that, having started out small like that and selling, really friendly pigs that, produced really good quality meat, I think that was a big key to the growth, that I've experienced over the years. The fact that, there's plenty of pigs out there available, and not all pigs are great pigs, and that's with any animal. And they're not all great. You got to pick and choose which ones work for your system. And as the market came up to, pastured pigs and that sort of thing, as that market grew, I kind of grew into that market, locally. And then just in the past few years, I've been shipping pigs, really all over the place, mostly up and down the East Coast, a little bit west, over Alabama, Florida, pretty well east of the Mississippi, I would say. But I'm able to produce, good pigs that are consistent, that or that grow well. And once I got that reputation locally, it just kind of grew itself from there. I started getting, calls from people farther and farther away that wanted the pigs. But the hard part is shipping. Now I've actually found a fellow that I'm working with that he does what he calls add-ons. So when he has something going, if I have pigs I need to get to Virginia or Pennsylvania, if he's down this way or in the area and headed that way, I can schedule with him and get shipping at a more reasonable rate, than most would. So what I can do is I can provide pigs to people in those other states at a competitive price. And, when they're ordering these pigs from me, they're getting 10 at a time, 20 or more at a time. And a lot of people that are buying them in those quantities typically are selling to restaurants, and chefs and that sort of thing. And I think that what the chefs want is consistency. So, these folks would have to go to, if they needed 20 pigs, but they didn't want to breed pigs, they would have to go to 2, 3, 4, 5 different farms to get pigs. And it's hard to be consistent that way.
Right.
So I can provide a pig at a competitive price, shipped to their door, basically. That's so they know what they're going to get. Each time it's going to be the same thing every time. That I send them. Wherever it is that I'm sending them.
Yeah. So what size are you typically shipping out in that situation?
They've all been between 50 and 75 pounds. I've shipped a few larger ones here and there, and I've shipped a few breeders. That's not the norm, but I've shipped a few breeders up to a friend of mine, Andrew Tice, up in Pennsylvania, has one of my boars and a few other folks, but generally piglets.
Yeah, yeah. So for the amount of pigs that you're producing, what percentage of those that you're farrowing and weaning on farm are shipped out, and then which ones do you grow, or how many do you grow out?
Well, I have an on-farm store, so I need to have a pig a month for myself, just for the store, and I also sell pigs on the hoof by live weight for freezer pork, and I have regular customers, so I'm trying to hold back, between 3 and 5 pigs, sometimes more than that a month. Now I'll hold back more in the spring for fall, because I have more whole, hog sales in the fall for freezer pork. But generally I'm holding back, between 3 and 5 a month just for myself. Just to sell for myself. So, yeah. But I'm pretty diverse. I mean, I'm selling, I'm selling all phases of pig. Barbecue is a really big thing down here. So summertime, I sell a lot of barbecue size pigs, which are typically from 50 to 125 pounds. Or, sometimes a little more than that. I sell roaster pigs, during the holidays. Of course, the piglets, freezer pork, I have the on-farm store. So I'm kind of all over the place, but, I think it's good for a farm my size to not have all their eggs in one basket, if that makes sense. Because, when I first, started out doing that, one of my mistakes was trying to stick with just producing pork, for people for their freezer and some piglets. I didn't really do anything else on top of that. But like I said, I'm doing the roasters and the barbecue pigs and, a couple other things with them. Shows, what I mean, that sort of thing. The 4-H kids are buying them now. So, and then of course I've got cows out there now and the sheep as well. And I have a rather large market garden that I do every year. So it's still a part of trying to be diverse on a farm this size. It's not easy, but it's necessary for being full time for the some kind of regularity of income.
Yeah, and that's the point I was thinking. It really helps with cash flow, where you've got
right.
all this turnover of product at different times, different seasons, and you're not waiting for that one big payout at the end of the year.
Sure.
Well, great. So, wow, there's a lot there. So let's back up a little bit and talk about your setup. So again, not just pig exclusive on your pasture setup there. So how do you have that set up with your cattle and your sheep and your pigs? Are you have your pigs sequestered in a specific area? Are they in a rotational process? Do you integrate any of those? Yeah,
I have 4 herds. Each herd is sired by large black boars, except for one, and I'll get into that shortly. But generally, I like to use large black boars as sires for my herds, and all my sows are either Tamworth or Blue Butt, and my Blue Butts are Yorkshire Hampshire cross. But as far as they're on where each herd has usually 3 pastures that I rotate them back and forth to, throughout the year. And then I have winter paddocks for them up near the house, where I can feed them hay and that sort of thing. They're a little bit closer in the wintertime.
Yeah, kind of a sacrificial area, I guess, because South Carolina,
Right.
you're far enough north where you still have a dormant season, I assume.
Yeah, we do. I'm pretty much. We have grass down here about 9 months of the year, about 9.5 months of the year, so it's not bad. But I've only been at this location for 2 years. The last place I was actually up to having it 11 months of the year because I was overseeing rye in the fall and that sort of thing. So I only had a small gap there where I had to feed hay, and I'm getting to that point here. But I haven't been here long enough. Is what it boils down to.
So, do you keep your pigs exclusive? They don't integrate with the sheep or the cattle in any way?
No. The sheep have their own pasture. I only have 6 at the moment, but that population's going to double this fall. And then the cows are in kind of a U shape around the outside of where all the pig pastures are. But they, and they have their own space as well.
Yeah, so I assume in that situation, your pigs aren't crossing over into sheep pasture or into
Right.
cattle pasture, because pigs can
Right.
be a little harder on the pasture. Sheep make it look like a golf course. Pigs make it look like a landmine.
Right. Yeah, mine aren't too bad with that. I mean, they do a little bit of surface rooting, but that's something that I've tried to select for over the years too. And I still have a few out there that root more than I would like, but they have so many other, positive attributes that I kind of keep them around, keep them around anyway. And it's not too bad. A lot of times if I get a pasture that turns up in poor shape, it's usually because it's rained a lot. And they seem to tend to root more when the ground's soft. And we've had a crazy amount of rain since like August. It's actually interfered with my planting quite a bit.
Yeah.
So,
It's been a crazy year for rain, that's for sure.
Oh, it's been terrible. I know a lot of farmers down here are starting to worry about it because we just can't get out in the field.
Yeah, you talked about that you had I think it was 3 large black that you breed, but you had another boar that was different. What's going on there?
So I'm involved in a project. I've been working on it for about almost 3 years now. I'm creating a new breed of pig, and I'm actually working with a geneticist from Clemson University.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going well. It's actually going really well. They are they're called a Carolina Spot Hog, and they are there's a breed that's not over here yet. It's actually still exists over in England and a couple other parts of Europe. It's called an Oxford Sandy and Black, and what it is it's a large blackish body type pig. But it's red, sandy red color, and it's got black spots and kind of blotches on it. And they have partially down ears. That's what the Oxford Sandy and Black looks like. Mine are very similar to that. They're orangey red kind of base color, and they have the black splotches on them. Only my hog's ears tend to be a little bit more upright. But I'm going to have those available. They'll be pedigreed. We're working on our 3rd line now.
Oh, wow.
so that we can, do that. So we can offer them as pedigreed breeders and that sort of thing. But it's probably going to be maybe this winter before they're going to be available.
Oh, that's excellent. Well, I'll definitely have to touch base with you again once that gets to that point, because we'll definitely want to dive deeper into that. That's a whole nother discussion right there.
It's been a fascinating project, really. I started out, some of the pigs that I was breeding came out, red with spots and that sort of thing. And I caught on early that they sell really fast because, and not there's anything wrong with it, but, people want a nice looking pig in their pasture, and they're pretty pigs, so I kind of got the idea to do that, and just I did a little bit of research about it. Now genetics is it's a little out of my pay grade. I'm learning as much as I can, but the geneticists have been very helpful as far as advising me who to breed to who and that sort of thing. We had to start out with a breed standard, of course, a tight breed standard. I know there's another so-called breed out there that's not actually a breed, and they're making a lot. It's kind of disappointing to me because I feel like they're taking advantage of, farmers or especially beginning people that don't really maybe know any better. But that breed or so-called breed is, it's not really a breed. It's a 4-way cross, and they come in all different colors and body types and ears up and down, and it's just, they're just kind of all over the place. When you're developing a breed, a proper breed, that's going to be pedigreed and so on, you gotta have a breed standard, and you gotta stick to it. You know what I mean? So, exactly. Yeah. And that's just, that's just how it's got to be. So I'm trying to do it the right way. It takes a lot longer doing it the right way, but I feel like I'm going to be able to offer a better, better, more consistent product in the end.
Yeah, that should pay off dividends in the end, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Okay, well, let's talk about your farrowing setup. So you're breeding with your boars. How do you farrow on the farm?
Pretty much on pastures. I have some shelters out there. Sometimes they use them, sometimes they don't. It's entirely up to the sows what they want to do. More frequently than not, they seem to have them outside, under a tree away from the herd. Mm-hmm. But so I don't have anything specific. Again, one of my requirements for a breeder is that she be a really good mom, and that they farrow without trouble, and that I can be as hands off as possible. I'm a busy guy, so I don't have time to pull pigs and that sort of thing. I'd rather not. I do what I got to do. You know what I mean? I've never pulled a pig, to be honest with you. I've actually never pulled a pig here, and I've had thousands, but over the years. But I think that harkens back to choosing which pigs you want to breed, and the better of them that you do breed.
Yeah, exactly. That comes back to good animal husbandry and like you say, selecting that feature in your breeding.
Yeah, I think that most people selecting a pig, to keep and breed, it's not easy. You know what I mean? It sounds like, okay, you have a pig out there, she looks good, she eats well, she grew up well, she's very feed efficient, she's really friendly, that sort of thing. And then you go and breed them, and then, they have an okay litter, or they lay on a bunch or something like that, and everybody wants to give them a second chance, which I do. And they may or may not do okay, but, economically, you have to be careful doing that, especially if you're doing it full time, it's not easy to eat a friendly pig that you've kept around, for a couple of years, to breed or whatever, and it don't work out. If it don't work out, it don't work out. It is what it is. But I think a lot of people make a mistake by maybe giving too many chances or hanging on to a pig for too long. Yeah. You're just feeding it to eat it.
Yeah, I have to confess, I've got a hamster that's dangerous close to becoming a pet because
right.
Nicest temperament you ever imagined, just a great animal, but she's definitely a little long in the tooth.
Yeah, and I get that. I do get that. But that's part of that's part of the gig. Like I said, if you're if you're going to do it full time, then you got to select hard for what your your goals. You got to select for your goals, and it's not always to do that, but easy to do that. But I got way too many pigs out there to hang on to one that's not performing, like it should, or like I expected it to.
So what is your goal when you look at litter size, when you're assessing a sow and you say, okay, this is the minimum I expect from a litter to get a check mark by the box there?
Right. Never less than 8 piglets, or I should say rarely less than 8 piglets. Now, stuff happens. It's not always the sow's fault. You got to, there's always other things to consider. But if she's consistently having less than 8 pigs, I'm not going to breed her. I'm not going to keep her around. Temperament, I got to be able to get in there and handle the pigs without her losing it. Now I want them to be, concerned when that piglet screams. We have predators here. We have bears, we have coyotes, hawks, that sort of thing. I've had very, very, very few bobcats too. I've had very few, incidents of that. Frankly, I think the coyotes are a little afraid of domestic pigs, but I want her to be able to, I want her to defend them. I don't want her to stand there and watch something eat eat her babies.
Absolutely.
So she's got to have a little gumption to her, but she has to be friendly enough to let me in there and at least handle them and get a head count and mark them if I'm marking them and that sort of thing. And unassisted births are a big thing to me. I kind of like going out there in the morning and be surprised, that my sow had 12 piglets last night or whatever. It happens all the time. Yeah, that's nice. And it's great. I love it, but I don't want to have to be out there babysitting them. I can't, I just can't do that. So that's, that as far as the breeding end of it, that's pretty much it. The only other thing is the numbers weaned against what she had. I expect 90%. So if she has 14 piglets, she really needs to wean 13 for me to keep her around. 12 is, bordering. If it's less than that, then that's not really acceptable. If she does that a couple of times in a row, she's going to get replaced.
Yeah.
Of course the piglet's got to grow up. She's got to have enough milk for all the piglets to grow up. Another thing I want to point out, I don't breed a sow that has less than 14 teats, and I prefer 16 if that's possible. One of the things about using the large blacks is it tends to carry. They all seem to have 14 or more teats, and the breeders that I've kept, like I said, no less than 14 because I like the big litters and I like for them to be able to feed them.
Yeah.
So that's another aspect of it. That I, just wanted to point that out because with big litters, if they only have 12 teats and they have 14 piglets, then somebody's going to struggle.
Yeah, and I mean that's a good point of selecting genetics. Is a good litter is just part of the equation. Like you said, if you got a sow that throws great litters, but she doesn't have a good teat count, then you're kind of fighting an uphill battle there.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And I don't bottle feed and pan feed, I don't do much of that either.
Nobody's got time for that.
Low maintenance pigs. I like very low maintenance pigs, but you got to breed for it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Bottle fed pig's a tough pig to take to the processor.
Yeah. I've been there. I guess we all have.
Yeah. That's why, having kids on the farm is a little tough sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's talk about, if we could, David, talk a little bit about your feed. So what's your feed ration? Do you have any goals or rules that you have with your feed, your source and all that?
Yeah, I've done a lot of experimenting over the years. I started out buying bagged feed, which seems, most people seem to do. And I've gotten stuff from, other sources here and there. My market garden's been a big help. I tend to grow a lot more than I'll sell or use myself. So they get quite a bit from that. And of course, being on pasture, pasture makes up a big part of their diet. But the feed itself, I've actually gone through a few different things and I've experimented. And what I've come up with, what I've settled on, is I have another farm that's kind of local to me, and I got with him a couple months ago. I had been buying corn, wheat, and oats and mixing it together, and it was a pretty good feed. It wasn't bad. I think the protein might have been a little bit low. I tried it for a while. It was okay. But what I did was sunflowers. A lot of farms grow sunflowers down here. And I started adding sunflowers to that mix. And then, I got with this farmer and I'm having it ground. It's been amazing. It's been really, really, really good. All the pigs look good. Their coats look shiny, and I think that it has to do with the oil, some of the oils that are found in the black oil sunflower seeds. So now what I'm doing is he's grinding it coarse. It's corn, wheat, oats, millet, and black oil sunflower seeds. And on the Parsons square, it comes up to about 15% protein, the way that I'm mixing it. So, I think it's It's a I'm trying to think of the word I'm looking for. It's a broad feed. I think it covers a lot of bases as far as fat and protein, of course, and selenium, where soil tends to be a little selenium deficient down here. So some of that's made up for in the feed. So what I do is I take and have him grind it. He's putting it in feed totes. They're 1,600 pounds each. And what I do is I'll take and put them in 55-gallon barrels, and I'll soak them for usually 2 or 3 days to soften it up before I feed them. It's not quite fermenting, but it's kind of beginning to when I feed it to them.
Yeah.
And of course that's the hotter it is, the faster it happens. So you gotta use some judgment there. But that's working out best for me at this point. With the amount of pigs that I have, I can fill up 5-gallon buckets with that stuff and put them on my little trailer and distribute them to each of the pastures in the evening. So it's pretty good, and it's turned out to be a good feed.
So that's interesting. So you're doing a manual daily feed process versus giving your finishers unlimited access to a large feed bin. Or
Yeah, I tried that, and I know other people that have tried that, and some people like it, and some people have time restraints. Where they might not have time to feed every day or twice a day or however they choose to do it. So I understand that people do use self feeders. I prefer not to, because I want, again, goals, right? One of my goals is for a large percentage of their diet to come from pasture. So I'm only feeding, even my breeders, they're only getting about maybe 5 or 6 pounds a day of wet feed each, and I only feed them once a day in the evening. So they're getting everything else they need out there.
Yeah. Well, are you having to offer any mineral supplement with that, or do you think that's all been covered in your feed mix?
I haven't found anything that they're deficient in. Usually there will be some kind of sign if there's a deficiency. So far so good. Everybody, everyone looks good. They're not digging, back to the rooting thing. A lot of times when they do root, I've seen pigs eat dirt before, and I'm sure that's, there's some mineral that they're not getting from their feed that they're looking for, and I'm not seeing any of that with this formula.
Excellent. So you'd mentioned your market garden. How much are you seeing? Are you seeing produce coming out of that for your pigs? Is that helping offset some of the feed consumption, or you think that's kind of a bonus on top?
It's kind of a bonus on top. Sometimes I'll get I've got a row of kale out there that I grew this past year, and I've been chopping it here and there for them, and just kind of tossing it in there after they eat, and that sort of thing. It's a little more of a supplement bonus kind of thing than the regular thing. One thing I do is in the wintertime, a lot of stuff that overwinters well, turnips, kale, mustard, that sort of thing. I'll put that stuff in extra just for the pigs, so they actually have something green to eat in the wintertime, and I'll try and cut some for them once or twice a week.
Excellent. Yeah.
Because they're not getting anything green off of pasture, and I'm feeding them hay at that point.
Right, yeah. So that definitely can help offset.
Right.
Well, excellent. Well, you had mentioned your farm store, so that's pretty compelling. So I was looking at, you say you're in Jonesville, South Carolina, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I guess, is that considered a suburb of Spartanburg?
I am in a triangle, almost center of a triangle. If you drew a line between Charlotte, North Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, and Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina, I'm kind of in the middle of that triangle.
Yeah.
And as far as, marketing wise, now I'm very rural, so it's not easy to get people, outside of the neighborhood, I guess you'd say, to come and, buy a couple pounds of, sausage, for example, each week or something like that. It happens. I have regular people that do come, once a month visitors, I call them. But, what I'm trying to do here is I'm offering the pork, beef. I'll have lamb, the vegetables, and I'm doing another thing that's new for me this year. I'm growing sunflowers out by the road, and it's like kind of like a photo op thing more than anything. I've got some old farm equipment out there that I'm going to plant right around, with the sunflowers and that sort of thing. I have a cousin up in Maryland that did it. He had a little, I'll tell you real quick, he had a little vegetable stand up there, and he, with just like an honor box or whatever, and he was doing okay. He was actually a little better area than I am, but his wife one year, a couple years ago, asked him to plant some sunflowers along, down the bottom of the driveway down by his thing. Well, instead of planting, like a little spot of sunflowers, his driveway is like 1/8 of a mile long. He planted both sides of his driveway all the way up to his house, and it was beautiful. But he drew so many more people there, and selling stuff, that he actually expanded on that. And he now has, a big field of sunflowers, and, it's grown into cut flowers and vases and, all this other. So he's made himself a destination farm, so to speak.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of emulating what he's doing. So we'll have cut flowers this year, and sunflowers and photo ops. And I have a photographer that we're working with, and it's hopefully going to be pretty good. My Facebook ads that I did, the first ad that I did for it, and I didn't. This is just not ads that I paid for, but ads that I put on, yard sale sites for Charlotte, and you know what I mean, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. I had 35,000 hits on that ad.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. I know. But, there's not a lot of people doing that sort of thing. So, I think it's going to be a good draw for the farm.
Well, that's huge. And being able to value add to the farm, again, helps with cash flow, helps with just diversifying your income streams. And again, it can open some doors. Like you said, your buddy up north that discovered, hey, I'm going to expand on this and make this an additional revenue stream that could actually be, not only paying for itself, it could actually be carrying some other areas there.
Absolutely. And he's selling a lot more vegetables now, too.
Exactly. Well, agritourism is a real thing. Some people kind of scoff and laugh when they hear about it, but it is a real thing. And if you can, you said the word right there, destination location. If you can set up your farm operation where it's inviting, bringing people in, then a destination location is going to pay dividends. You're going to get sales across the board in so many areas.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, exactly. Diversification. That's what we, like we were talking about earlier. That's just one more thing to add, to all the stuff that I have, other stuff that I have to offer.
So
balance the income, what it boils down to.
So if you've got people coming in, obviously buying cuts, are you going out? Are you doing any type of distribution or delivery route with your cuts?
No, I haven't done any of that. Like I said, I'm in a very rural area, so there's only so many people around here that I would do that. And then there's places like Greenville and stuff. There's other smaller pastured operations that are doing the farmers market and that sort of thing up there. And I'm not trying to encroach, on them. I prefer to help the other pastured farms wherever I can. I get phone calls all the time. I guess because of expanding and shipping, and I have a pretty good Facebook presence. I get phone calls from people all the time, not just people that buy piglets from me, but, nationally. I talked to a guy from Texas not that long ago. He's not going to buy pigs from me, but he was wanting to know about, having them on pasture and their behavior and overseeding pasture and that sort of thing, and I'm happy to help. I ended up spending an hour and a half on the phone with him, but I don't mind doing that. I think that, expanding it anywhere is good for what I call the trade, the pastured trade itself. So if there's other people out there that I can help get started, even if they're not buying anything from me, that's okay. I'm happy to help, happy to help them get started. And I've gotten a lot of people started around here, even to the point that, they could be competition someday, but that's all part of the game.
Well, and that's a good point. And I love that philosophy and I love that attitude, because there's a lot of people that would complain in the pastured pork industry that complain and say, oh, somebody else is doing this. They're really killing the market. They're driving the prices down. It's tough.
Yeah.
And I think we got to watch. We got to keep from falling into this commodity ideal that's something unique about pastured pig, and also your operation should be unique. And I agree with you. I kind of take the philosophy of a rising tide lifts all ships there. So the more awareness we can build in people about pastured operation, the more we can kind of build up our industry as compared to the big CAFO operations.
That's exactly right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't, competition isn't necessarily a bad thing. Staying in the game is the hard part. So you've got people out there, I'll sell piglets to people. I have people come to me all the time. They say, I want a male and I want 2 or 3 females or whatever. And I ask them, are you going to breed these? What are your intentions with them? And if that's what they want to do, great. I'll sell it to them and I'll help them out. But a lot of times, I had a lady come not that long ago that wanted exactly that. She wanted two gilts and a boar. And I ended up, talking her out of it. And I didn't talk her out of it because of the competition. I talked her out of it because, she's not too far from here. And I told her, I said, you're going to have two sows out there. For one thing, they're not even going to breed, for 7-8 months. Then you're going to wait, 3 months, 3 weeks, 3 days for your litters. Then all of a sudden you're going to have, 20 pigs that you have to sell. Do you have a market for 20 pigs? That's what it boils down to. And I said, have you raised pigs before? Her answer was no. So I told her, I said, look, just get a couple feeders. I said, I'm not going anywhere. I said, if you want to buy, if you want to buy them now, I'll sell them to you. I said, but, if I were you, I'd probably just get a couple feeders and try it out and test your fences and see how you like the pigs and, see how it goes from there. And she did. She took it. I told her, I said, I'm not trying to talk you out of anything. I said, I'm just trying to give you some good advice from somebody that's been there.
Yeah. And that's some solid advice. Yeah, I mean, I always shudder when I hear people say, hey, I've done this, I've bred, now I've got 20 pigs, or I've finished X amount of pigs. And it's time to take them to the processor here in a couple of weeks. Now I got to sell them, and then you almost grasp your heart and say, "Oh my goodness, what are you doing?"
Right, yeah, and that's the thing. It's I'm not trying to put anybody out of business. I'm trying to make it so if she wants to breed down the road, she will have some pig experience, under her belt. She knows how they're going to act. She knows how much they're going to eat. And that sort of thing. And, if I told her along, and along the way, while you're doing this, I said, if you want to do that, I said, start telling people now that you're going to have pork later, and plant that seed in their head that you're going to have pork available at some point. They want to buy a whole pig. They want to buy cuts, however they choose to do it,
Absolutely. Yeah.
In the long term, they're better off.
Yeah, I agree. Well, excellent. Well, let's talk briefly about processing. So for stock in your store there, what's your experience been with your processors? Do you have access to multiple processors? Do you have a good relationship with your processors?
I have 3, I guess you could say in the area. The one that I've used the most is actually the farthest away. They're about 2 hours and 15 minutes away.
That's about the way it usually works, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's actually another one that I didn't even know they were USDA. I knew they were processor. I knew they were USDA, so I'm going to try them out. They're only about an hour away. I do have a processor that's much closer, about 40 minutes away, but not a good reputation. So I'm not taking my pigs there, just based on this place is like. Well, I'll put it to you this way: they took their reviews off of Facebook.
Yeah.
So that people can't see them, and that right there tells you,
Yeah, it speaks volumes.
Yeah, exactly. So I spoke to him, and I did talk to the owner on the phone a few times, just to see for myself, because I'm not one to take somebody else's word. Processors, they don't have it so easy either. You know what I mean? And there's things that can go wrong. You know what I mean? And there's mistakes that are made sometimes, and I get that, and I try to be as understanding as I can. But some of the stuff that they're doing is just, beyond the pale. So I'm not gonna take my.
Yeah, and that seems to be a continual struggle we have as pig farmers, where you end up raising a good product and then it's in the hands of a processor. So you definitely want to do your homework there and get that relationship.
Yeah, and I would encourage anybody that's new or looking at a new processor, look at their reviews. You know what I mean? Go on Google, look at their reviews, check their Facebook page, that sort of thing. Don't be too hard on them if they have one or two bad reviews, because it happens. But if they got 100 reviews and one bad one, they're probably a good processor.
Yeah.
But if they've got 100 reviews and 20 of them are bad, then I'm not going there. But that's a good way to find out.
Yeah, I agree. Right. Well, let's see, we're creeping up on our 45-minute mark here, David. I don't want to burn your entire evening, so if we could, let's wrap up with, what would you say is your best experience or your favorite part of raising pigs on pasture?
My favorite part of raising pigs on pasture, there's so much I like about it. I enjoy interacting with them every day. All my pigs are, puppy dog friendly, so I'm frequently out there back scratching and belly rubbing. Yeah. So I think just interacting with them, one-on-one kind of thing is, that's probably my favorite part.
Excellent. Yeah, there's something about being out and interacting with the animals, being outside, and just recognizing the personality. Pigs got so much personality. It's just
they really do,
and it's unique to each one. It's not like they're all the same either.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, excellent. Well, if people want to learn more about Six Oaks Farms, where can they find information?
Well, I am on Facebook. Like I said, I got a pretty good Facebook presence. I keep my page updated frequently. We have a lot of events coming up. The South Carolina Ag and Art Tour will be here in June. That's where we actually have different farms around a couple counties in the upstate. The organization will send artisans to your farm, and people, the public can come around and do tours and purchase your whatever you're offering, and see the artisans. They're run the gamut from painting and stained glass and pottery to musicians and that sort of thing. It's really nice event. It's a 2-day event, and I have a web page as well. It's sixoaksfarm.webs.com. And I can always be reached by phone. Again, even if somebody just has some questions, that's okay. Feel free to call. If I don't pick up, leave me a message or send me a text or whatever, and I'll get back. My number is 803-580-7448.
Excellent. All right. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. Hopefully nobody blows your phone up over and over. But I'll post the links to your Facebook page, to your website, and I'll post that information in the show notes there. So
I appreciate it.
Access that. Well, David, I appreciate your time, and again, it was a pleasure talking to you. I'd love to come back and talk to you again when you get that new breed line figured out and settled down. So I'd love to talk to you in the future as opportunity arises there.
Absolutely, anytime.
Well, have a great evening, and appreciate you talking with us.
Thank you. You too. I appreciate it.
All right, take care.
Bye now.
Well, man, isn't that great? That was, again, I really appreciate David taking the time to talk with us, and anxious to have him back on the podcast to see how things are going, and to talk about some specific issues. He provided a lot of insight there, a lot of questions that I could ask that could turn into an entire podcast just by themselves. So check him out. His information I'll have down in the show notes there. He has a website. He does take orders on the website for processed pork and beef. But then he also has an opportunity to sell feeder pigs, and as you heard, he does a lot of transporting there. So if you're looking for some feeder pigs, if you want to try out this new breed line, as he has that coming online soon, then maybe you can order from him on that. Well, I hope everyone has a great day. Again, we appreciate you taking the time to listen to us. Please, if you don't mind, if you like this podcast, share it with your friends that are interested in pastured pork. Also, go to iTunes if you don't mind. Leave us a review. Give us a rating if you would, please. Hopefully a positive rating. That helps other people find us and spread the word there. Our downloads are starting to increase, and we appreciate that. That means I'm not transmitting into the abyss. And obviously check us out. If you want more information on what we've got going on here, you can find us at redtoolhouse.com. We're on Facebook under the same, and we have an Instagram account as well. All right, well, everyone take care.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of the Pastured Pig Podcast. To learn more about our podcast or to submit topics or recommend guests for future episodes,
Visit redtoolhouse.com.